hello, here's some information about how my targeting has progressed and discoveries that I've made. In the beginning, I believed it was people in the locality that were following me around and harassing me by word of mouth, or perhaps they had some sort of an app on the phones to do it, some sort of syndicate gang. And that is true. People, real people, were and still are involved in this harassment and this gang stalking, but several things have come to light over these several years, particularly the last year, as the stalking and all the other things have intensified. And I'm going to bring a few of those points to light here. One of them is what's been occurring. I can only describe it as apparent acts of mind reading. I will give several real situations that have happened to me. I was in a public place. I had some audio on an MP3 player that wasn't music. It wasn't in the public domain. It wasn't something you can download or anything popular. It was dialogue, spoken dialogue. And I was listening to it on my headphones. There is no way somebody sat 10 feet away in this public place could have heard what was on my headphones. It wasn't loud. And I was being gang stalked, as I always am in that particular public place. And I looked at what I believed was one of my gang stalkers, and he was looking at me, and he was mouthing the words as I was listening to them on my headphones. I had my headphones on. I was listening to the dialogue quietly, spoken dialogue. Again, not a transmission, not on the radio, not in the public domain, not on the internet, not a CD that you can buy. Some audio that I'd personally recorded. And he was mouthing it in perfect timing, as if just word for word. And I looked at him, and he looked in my eyes as he was doing it, and then he looked sort of frightened when he was looking in my eyes, like he'd sort of come out of some sort of a trance or something. Really, it was highly odd. How can you explain that? So that did happen, and that person has gang stalked me on other occasions as well. But he looked just as shocked as I did. But why did he look shocked when I was looking in his eyes anyway? So that was, to me, an apparent act of either mind reading or somehow tapping into the transmission. But I appreciate that can be done, and I know how it can be done because of antennas and copper and all types of electronic equipment can easily be hacked into, but by people that want to do it and that have the knowledge. But how did he speak those words in perfect timing as they were occurring? How did he know in advance what they were going to be? You understand? And another act of what I will call mind reading. I've heard about something called remote neural monitoring and synthetic telepathy. And as I said in the beginning, I assumed I was just being targeted from having dealings with the police, meeting a neighbour that was very angry, that was delusional, and she was an alcoholic, and she was very vicious and nasty, and then moving where this gang was selling drugs and things like that. And those things did happen. However, what's happening to me seems to fit other people's, what's happened to them. It seems like it's a program of very particular things, very unusual and particular antisocial things that are occurring. And I'll explain, there's another instance of what I would call apparent acts of mind reading. I was in a bar, and it was one of those, we have a booth, and you can just see the person's head over the next booth. It's not all the way up the wood, it's sort of like just to your shoulders. And what happens sometimes is when I go in public places, happens nearly every time at certain public places that I frequent. On this occasion, things that I'd done the day before were being spoke about in the first person, as if it was the person behind me, as if he was me the day before. and certain things I'd said, which, and that was like mind reading from the day before, if you understand. It's going to be difficult to grasp, but I'll give a more easier to grasp. Okay, right. I was sat at this table, I was looking on my tablet, and I was looking at jammers for a certain particular frequencies. I was interested in jammers for a frequency 3,000 gigahertz, yeah, and then it came up military jammers, yeah, for jamming bombs and things like that. And I was just reading it. I was just, and then a picture of a truck came up with a big radar thing on it, and I looked at it, and the girl next door in the booth, she wasn't looking at her phone. She spoke to the woman opposite and said, "Better get that truck in here now." I was looking at a picture of a big truck. There's no way she could see over and see what I was looking at. Fine, could be coincidence. And 2 weeks before that, I'd been in a public toilet, and I had some leaflets about gang stalking. And I was going to put one up in the public toilet, just one on the door, and I realised I hadn't got anything to put it up with, and there was nowhere to prop the leaflet up. So what I did was I put the leaflet on the floor, so that when you sat on the toilet, you would see it. So I left one of these little leaflets there, and I came out of the cubicle, private cubicle, yeah, toilet. The woman, 2 weeks later, is in this bar, and the little piece of, like, separating us, the partition, she couldn't see what I was looking at, yeah. And she said, "Yeah, leave your leaflet in the toilet. Don't worry, I'll put it in the bin for you." And then they all started laughing, and I thought, what are they on about? And they kept saying little things like that had happened to me. And another time, the day before, when I was in this bar, I'd been walking at night, and I was on my own. And a song came to me in my head, a song and a melody, words and the melody together. And I thought, I'll get this. I don't want to lose it. So I got my MP3 player, my phone actually it was, out of my pocket. I thought, how can I? And I thought, I can do it on my phone. So I just got my phone out of my pocket, and there was nobody there whatsoever. And I just sang a little tiny bit of this very quietly into my phone, just so I wouldn't forget the melody and the song. And the lad in the bar says, "Oh yeah, I got that song. Yeah, I had my phone in my pocket. Yeah, I got it out last night, and I managed to get it down. Yeah, thanks for that." That's what he said. And I'd actually thank God for the song. Yeah. Quietly. I hadn't gone, "Oh yeah, thank God," I'd got the inspiration. I'd done this little song. I thought, right, yeah, very quietly. Nobody there. Put the phone back. Thought, right, when I get in, I'll write it down or whatever. And that, I said, thank you, God, for that. It's like a break, in my targeting, like how things used to be, And that lad said that. And then I had the thing with the truck, and then I had about the leaflet. Don't worry, leave your... She didn't call it a leaflet, she said pamphlet. I don't use that word, but she said that on the floor. Don't worry. She said in the cubicle, she said, "Don't worry, I'll put it in the bin for you." And they started laughing. And I thought, this is too much of a coincidence. Better get that truck in here now. And they was laughing about that when I was looking at jammers. And there's no way they would be able to see over that cubicle. So to me, those are very apparent acts of some kind of telepathy or something. It's happened to me before, and in other words, and I will do a talk about this on a separate thing, because I have certain indications that the people doing this, like the lad that was mouthing back, he was saying it, he was lip syncing it, the words I was listening to as I was listening to them, in perfect timing. And he can't possibly have heard them, because that isn't in the public domain. And how did he know which words are going to come first? Yeah, he looked shocked when I looked at him, and his eyes were glazed. And I've noticed a lot of these people doing this sort of behaviour, I'll call them gang stalkers, their eyes are kind of glazed, like they're in some kind of a trance. And they seem, when you look at them or you approach them and you ask them, are they okay, and you start talking to them and you drop a few clues in about what they've been on about, they seem to sort of snap out of the trance, as if you've shocked them as much as they've shocked you. So I'm beginning to wonder if they're actually doing this knowingly and willingly. And something points to me that they're not. Something, and this is going to be really hard to take in as facts. But to me, these people, I believe, haven't just been told lies about the targets, as in all the usual stuff that's said about targets, like the criminals, paedophiles, prostitutes, whatever, anything to turn people against. I don't believe they've just been told those things. I believe in some instances, maybe both, they've been told those things, but they're also under some kind of mind control or hypnosis. I really do believe that. And because of the way they look like they're hypnotised, or they look like they're on drugs. But I will do another talk about that, because I have quite a lot of things that have happened to me, which, if you can actually believe that, it's, again, who's going to believe it? Unless it actually happens to you. And it happens to you again and again and again. It's very difficult to believe. So I'll leave it there just now with those two apparent acts of mind reading that I've mentioned. And I'll do some other talks as well I'll try and do the talks where each talk is just about a particular thing. Because I am being, I'd say, harassed every day. And not always in those ways. And I have certain strategies to counteract the effects of it. And I will do the little talks. So if you have a look at my other things, if anything's a particular interest that's happening to you, and you may want to see if it's something in common with what's happening to me, or maybe you don't really understand how or what's happening, just have a look at my other monologues. And it seems that there's a commonality of ways that us, I presume you're a target if you listen to this, are being abused, and it is abuse. Okay, thank you. I've also done a talk on what and who I think is behind this and the purpose of it. Okay, thank you. God bless. Bye.